Hi team, Richard Greer here and welcoming Oska who's sitting alongside me tonight. Welcome to our new Coaches Corner podcast where we're going to connect with a couple of awesome coaches and to share the latest thinking and theories about all things endurance sport. So tonight we're going to have a chat to Oska, and also we've got Craig Kirkwood sitting in the background. We're going to have a bit of a chat to him about training, getting old, opportunities, goal setting. Do any of those relate to you, Oska?
All of them, I think. The getting old is inevitable, but goal setting keeps me out of bed in the morning. And I don't remember what the third one was. I've forgotten already because it's past my bedtime.
We were talking before we come on. Have you got your jammies on? Is that
Undies. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. And as any good athlete should be getting some good night's sleep, early to bed, early to rise.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's a bit of a thing that you've done recently, so training earlier on in the day?
Yeah, I guess works a bit better with the family life and getting out of bed a bit early before everyone else does, and hit the road early and get those workouts in, and then off to work and see you home in the evening. Yeah, it works much better.
That's right. And your training doesn't get swamped either, and don't get stressed that you're going to miss it. You can get those key sessions done, and the only trouble is when I'm trying to talk on the phone and you're making smoothies all day. That's the only issue.
Yeah, I know. Well, calories in, calories out, Richard. So you've got to keep yourself topped up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how have you been getting on lately? What's been happening for you? Race-wise, everything's kind of been canned. What's been going on?
Oh, it's been a bit funny, actually. Last year I probably I got a bit grumpy that everything sort of didn't really happen after, I guess we got our Christchurch marathon last year, so I ran the half marathon, ran really well. And then, things started to get a bit tricky, and there was sort of some races happening and some races not. And I guess I kind of got into the situation where I got a bit sort of grumpy about it and a bit down about it. And then this year I've kind of just gone, well, bugger it, I'll just race whatever's going. So in the last 14 days I've raced help pace of 5,000 meters on the track. My first 1,500 meter race in 13 years. And then I raced a half marathon on the weekend. So my body stimulus is like, what would you like from me? That's the first bit. But, I guess when they're there and you can see some benefit in doing all those things, go for gold. So it's been fun.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's fun and you're challenging yourself in different ways. And I guess that's the thing is sometimes if you've got this big goal and do this big build up to it, and that's the one thing, it's quite cool just to jump around and do all sorts of different stuff for a while.
Yeah, I'd have to say lining up in the 1,500, for me, there's no pressure because I'm never going to be at the front. My little legs don't go that fast, but, it was a lot of fun. Tactics are different to racing on the road. Like, for a half marathon, which is probably my favorite distance, we've got an hour to sort ourselves out before anything sort of starts happening. But in the 1,500, we had about 45 seconds. And then all of a sudden it's finished and I'm looking around going, are we done? Oh, I didn't run hard enough.
I'm just warming up. Surely you would have had to try and get the whole shot off the start line, though, did you?
No, because I was so scared we were going to run that first lap in sub 60, and I was going to get the kitchen fridge on the back 700 meters into the race that I didn't actually. Ended up right at the back. And so to fight my way forward, which is, look, it was good. It was good fun, and you definitely learn from those things. And if you can still run, a 60-second last lap, then that's only going to help your marathon when we can run them again, for sure. Yep.
Nice. And looking forward, have you got some marathons? Have you got some running on the cards? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, so we're just trying at the moment organise, something with Athletics New Zealand, Athletics Canterbury to give some women and men an opportunity to run quick over a marathon and perhaps get themselves on a long list, which is definitely my goals. So sort of that 2:14 mark. And for some others to try and make the World Champs or Commonwealth Games team. So that's, probably not quite there for me, but I'd like to see how fast I can go. So we're just trying to create those opportunities. Obviously, with the larger events just being too hard for them to have them at the moment, unfortunately, which is a bit frustrating. Hey, you do the best you can and try and shine a different stone all the other side and line up with some mates and have a go.
Good. And it's cool, isn't it? Great that you sort of, how do we make this work sort of thing, bit of Kiwi ingenuity. That's awesome. And that kind of leads me to my next point. You wrote a really good article the other day about opportunities, taking some opportunities.
And sorry, Andy's going to join us.
She's just taking her opportunity. Like, Dad's busy now. He can't put me to bed right now. I'm going to jump in on it. That's awesome.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the article I wrote on opportunity was, sort of around that, acknowledging that disappointment, but then also seeing what you could do instead of, and also continuing to do things help our future self with the opportunity that when it does present itself. So it is okay to feel, I'm a bit disappointed. I've worked hard. That thing's not going to happen. But hey, how did that set me up for something that's going to happen next? And I think as an athlete, you will often only look forwards because we're sort of, here's this thing and here's the next thing. But we quite often don't look back and say, man, we've done well this last 9 or 12 weeks. And that training that we've done, I guess having a race sets a line in the sand around, have we made some good progress? But we don't often need that to have made the progress. It's more for our own self-satisfaction in a way. We still have moved forward by doing those, those blocks of training and the evolution of ourselves. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And that training basically allows you to do more, doesn't it? And challenge yourself in different ways on top of and building and becoming stronger in yourself. So, and it's also like you're doing at the moment. How can I use this? Let's step out of my comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, and did that 1,500 meters, not my thing.
Yeah.
No, not my thing. No.
But it can be a nice piece to the puzzle going forward in terms of building towards the next thing as well. Actually taking that opportunity and having a crack and learning something from it.
Yeah, and I think too, we get quite comfortable doing the things that we do. I'm really comfortable running 13 hours a week or 14 hours a week. That doesn't tend to break me or hurt me too badly, but when we add in some different stimulus, are we going to get a bigger training benefit? And what does that look like? Because we don't often do those things when everything's going well and we can do all the things we want to do all the time. So, by doing something a bit longer or a bit faster, with guidance, obviously, of course, are we going to better ourselves? I guess. Yeah,
that's right. It sort of come about when this conversation we had the other week when I sort of reflected on my sort of coast to coast being cancelled and then entered Waka 100 and had a leave pass and a flights, accommodation and an entry organised within about 20 minutes. And then that got cancelled as well. And basically that weekend I just had my bottom lip out and was a bit sad, basically, as a result of that. And as a result, I've injured my back and I'm just old as a result of it. And I guess it's the opposite of that of when you do stop or and things are kind of ripped out from underneath you, like, oh, it's a bit average. And then you feel worse because you feel average. So, pick yourself up and what do we got to look forward to instead of? And that's obviously what you've done.
Yeah, I think that's important. Definitely let yourself be a bit disappointed because that was a big thing, but then find some fun stuff to do with that fitness or, that weekend you've got the leave pass, which doesn't happen very often for you and me.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Lock that in and have a crack when you can. That's awesome. And in terms of maybe we'll just jump to Craig, shall we? Have a bit of a chat to him. Do you want to do a bit of an intro?
Yeah. So I guess I met CK a wee while ago. His words are immortalised on the top of the door as you walk out of the shop. Mm-hmm. Before I ran my first marathon, I was a wee bit nervous. That was Auckland 2016 maybe. And I just asked for some words of advice and I sent him this big long email and he pretty much sent back those 4 lines. I don't know if it helps. So it was basically the marathon. The first time you want to pick it up, don't. The second time you want to pick it up, don't. And the third time you won't be able to. And so I did take those words on board, but unfortunately, fortunately for me, I ran the last 3K, the fastest 3K all day. So evidently I didn't run hard enough for the first 39K. But, he's a good rooster. He's got a couple of great athletes at the elite level, but also at a mass participation level. Run some pretty handy times on the track and the road and as an Ironman athlete. So he's got some credentials there to, I guess, share some knowledge with all of us.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. We'll bring Craig in. How you doing, Craig?
Very good, thank you. Fantastic intro there, Oska. Thank you for that.
Not bad off the cuff.
Yeah, not bad. I'm glad you took that advice on board all those years ago. And the last 3K you probably ran as fast as you did because you hadn't gone earlier. So, no, thank you very much.
No worries. Can we ask, what was the result in that one, Oska?
I won by about 10 minutes and I ran 20:20 on debut in Auckland, which is quite hilly, as Craig will probably tell you.
Yeah,
it's not flat.
It's not the easiest course. Yeah, it can be windy as well on the way back from St Heliers.
It really was. Yeah, it really was windy.
So you take a lot of that credit for that particular performance, Craig?
100%. Yep, that's all me.
Excellent. No, that's awesome. So tell us, give us a little bit more of a sort of background. Who are you coaching? What are you up to for yourself as as a coach, obviously, and athletes that you're working with, etc.?
Yeah, so I've got quite a big squad actually, and probably the two highest profile athletes would be Hayden Wild, who obviously was bronze medalist in the triathlon in Tokyo, and Sam Tanner, who's 1500 meters in Tokyo as well. He was unlucky in that heat that he had a pretty difficult heat to get through to make it through the next round and got bailed out, but he learnt heaps. We had a really interesting time after that. I sent him back to watch the race about a dozen times with the instruction of watching everybody in the race for the entirety of that, that time, and then go back and watch it again and watch someone else and just try and learn as much as he could about, where he positioned himself and what he could have done there and, what other guys did to get through to the next round. So that was a really cool learning for him and for me. The rest of the squad is made up of quite a few pretty good juniors, who some of which are racing this weekend in Hastings, and they're also, some of them are pretty good little triathletes as well. So they'll be racing at nationals later on this month in New Plymouth, provided that all goes ahead. And then a whole bunch of it almost sounds derogatory, but kind of age group recreational athletes who go about their business and have their own goals, and that's a really cool part of what I do. I enjoy the spectrum of athletes that I coach, and having athletes who compete and perform at the highest level in the world, right through to people who just want to kind of complete a race or try and run their PB on whatever weekend. So it's a really cool spectrum of athletes. Personally, I'm not actually doing much competition wise. I haven't really had the motivation to race for a long time, but every now and again I kind of decide that I would get fit and might enter something, and then I normally hurt myself about a week later. So so maybe that's a message I shouldn't do anything, but we'll see. Maybe any day I could race.
Well, that's the trouble, I think. Having been at a certain level and then trying to race again, you expect yourself to still be there, but maybe don't do the groundwork underneath that. And then, I know exactly. I can understand that. Yeah, that's why I'm an expert on cramp, because I won't train as much and then go and race like I used to, or think I should, and then it all blows up.
Yeah, that's right. I had I was kind of half-assed my training about a year ago, and Alice Mason challenged me to a half marathon, and we put a coffee on it. So there's no way I wanted to get beaten by her, and I managed to pull it out of the bag. But I was pretty sore for a few days, though. I hobbled around for about 3 days after that.
That's okay. Doesn't matter though.
Probably should have done more training.
You did just enough. That's awesome.
That's right.
Yeah. Excellent. So tell us a little bit about jumping into Tokyo and sort of what that build-up was like. Talking to Oska earlier, you weren't able to actually travel with them, so it was all kind of via distance. That must have been difficult for you as a coach and sort of as a team.
Yeah, so it was pretty messy actually last year. We had, with Hayden, Tri and Z had kind of decided pretty early in the year that no one was going to be able to travel internationally to any racing. And then almost at the last minute, he was given permission to go and race in Leeds at the World Series race. So we kind of decided straight away that he was definitely going, and that was something that we wanted to, for him to do, to get some competition internationally before he went to Tokyo. There weren't many opportunities, and that was one we really wanted to take. So we both managed to go there to that race. So he went to Australia for a few weeks beforehand, out of the cold weather, and then I joined him in Leeds for the World Series race. And then we spent the month of June in Belgium at his partner's house, with a short trip to Austria for a continental or European Cup championships. So we just spent the month in Belgium just training and getting a big chunk of work done in the warm weather and uninterrupted by anyone. And we just, it was just a really good block. At the end of June, I had to travel home, spent my 2 weeks in MIQ. And then so he stayed on in Belgium for about another week and a half, and then went to Spain to get some heat acclimatization, and spent some time in Girona, which it's pretty hot at that time of year, so it was perfect kind of lead into Tokyo. But it was a tricky build not being there right to the end, and it got pretty messy when he got to Tokyo. I won't go into all the ins and outs, but he found the transition arriving in Tokyo and just kind of things not being 100% settled on the ground, and it was quite hard being back in New Zealand and not being able to be there and kind of help him sort things out, and yeah, he was kind of pretty isolated in Tokyo, so it was pretty tough time, but he managed to capitalize on everything that we'd done prior and get his head in the right space, and obviously performed pretty well on the day.
So that was just more organising and just stuff that you could have been doing to help him get to where he needs to be. So that management back end stuff that was just tricky for him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So he arrived before the rest of the Try and Z team, and there was just a few kind of things that hadn't kind of been organised prior, and it was just got a bit messy on the ground and left him a bit stressed for a few days. But it all worked out in the end. It was just a tough beginning to being on the ground in Tokyo, and it's not what you want. 10 days out from your race.
Yeah. So just to go back a step, tell us sort of that coach-athlete relationship. What happens when you're away overseas in Europe, kind of thing, training? What do you do? What does he do? How does that go? Are you training with him? I guess it means that you can get a pretty good feel for, or training, biking beside him while he's running. That's what I mean. How does that sort of look? What are you up to? Because obviously you're away from your family as well.
Yeah. So I left my family here for 6 weeks in total. So being in Belgium, so we would go to the pool together. Obviously, he'd swim. I wouldn't, or sometimes I'd jump in the pool and swim, but generally he'd swim, and I'd just kind of be there on the pool deck. And then when he goes riding, like I can ride with him on his easier rides and just kind of just aerobic type rides. But any kind of workout, there's no way I can hold his wheel. He's just way too strong. It's like riding with a motorbike.
Yeah.
And same with running. I can long run with them, do his easy runs, but as soon as it comes time for a workout, there's no chance. And so, I'd either jump on the bike or we'd be at the track in the town that his partner Hannah lives in. So, which is track's only kind of a K.5 away from their house. So we just warm up there, and then he'd do his track session. We jog back. So it's pretty handy. Good location.
Yeah, nice. And then training, and obviously, so that's part of it. And he's training a fair bit, but obviously there's downtime. I guess you're working overseas, just like distance-wise, for all the other athletes that's going on throughout the world.
Yeah. So I have all my normal work to do, and I had someone here taking my squads for me. So I was kind of liaising with them and just making sure that they were all running smoothly and everyone was kind of getting everything that they needed in terms of communication and support. So it actually worked pretty seamlessly. I was quite surprised how well it did work, and hoping this year I'll be able to get away for a little bit longer, hoping for maybe like 8 weeks this year, and thankfully no MIQ to come back to, so that'll keep the time down.
Yeah, good. So really from an athlete coach perspective, that's when some really good gains can be made, where you can really dial in, I guess, that recovery or some of that technique type stuff. Is that sort of what your key role is? Obviously in riding sessions and seeing how he's actually doing. And
yeah, it's just all the little things as well. Like we went to Austria, and so it's just arranging kind of all the transport, and I drove there and back, and we found a place to stay, and I found the place to stay, and I just took care of all that stuff for him. So there's none of the admin type stuff that he needs to worry about. We just it's just arrive there, he races, we head back. So it's not there's no stress in his life in terms of that stuff. Logistically, it was really difficult this year with COVID testing and all the documentation for every time you change countries or every time you moved around, you had to get PCR tests, and they all had to be timed so that you could arrive at the next airport on time and all that kind of stuff. So it was logistically pretty challenging.
Nice. So like you guys have known each other for quite a long time. So obviously I'm sitting in the front run at the moment, and that quote's just on the board just over the side for me. Obviously, that's one little golden snippet. Are there any other sort of key things that spring to mind, or other key questions to share?
Yeah. So what I'm wondering is, because I'm pretty particular about a build-up, obviously nowhere near the level of Hayden or Sam, but when you're getting directive from a governing body to say, you're not knowing if you're going to be able to get to Europe, we use Hayden as an example, and they're saying, no, you can't travel, and Hayden's going, well, hold on a second, July, whatever it was, or start of August is the biggest day of my life to date. And so how are you talking to him around, keeping him calm, I guess, to a degree, because we're pretty edgy when things aren't looking like they're going to go the way we need them to go. So how did you navigate, I guess, that time period, with him and others?
Yeah, I guess in that time period, I probably carried a lot of that stress that he didn't. And I'd created in the background probably about 5 or 6 different scenarios for the year, and like, if we could go here, this is what we would do, and if weren't allowed to go there, maybe we'd go here. And so I'd kind of planned all that stuff out. Hadn't always shared that stuff with him, but I always had it in the back of my mind, or on my laptop anyway, as a plan that we could implement at any time. Obviously, the being allowed to go to Leeds, probably 3 weeks out from the race was, pretty cool in that we could have to change plans again all of a sudden to get there, and then make a whole bunch of other plans around racing and travel and training and all sorts of stuff. So, so the answer to that question is I probably carried a lot of that stress. Hayden's a pretty laid back kind of character, so he doesn't kind of get ruffled too easily with that kind of stuff. He just kind of goes with the flow, and he knew full well that the year was going to be pretty disrupted anyway. So that we had a plan, to go to Australia or even stay in New Zealand and get ready for the Olympics. If need be. And we'd had pretty in-depth discussions around simulating races here in Tauranga. So if need be, we would recruit in a fast swimmer and a fast cyclist, or a couple of fast cyclists and a couple of fast runners to actually simulate a really hard race experience for him. So that was one of the things we'd kind of pre-planned. Thankfully, we didn't have to use it, because I don't think it would be quite as good as racing a World Series race. But
And so then I guess if you took that plan and you were going to, put it in place for the average person, so let's say, I say that kindly, the average person, everyone's average compared to Hayden. For example, say the Christchurch Marathon guys or the Coast to Coast guys, and, looking at those disruptions, what would be your advice, I guess, to them in terms of, having an A, B or C type goal?
Yeah, I mean, I always come back to the Mike Tyson quote where he says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I think it's really important. Like, you've got to be robust enough to be fluid with those plans, and if things do change, then you just got to accept that that's the way it's going to be. I think potentially being so rigid in your mindset initially is probably a bit of a fault and a bit of a failing, in that as a character trait, it's probably something that needs to be worked on, and just having that ability to be robust, I think it's important.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Like it.
Good stuff. Nice. Obviously, you work. Was it, sorry?
You can put that quote on the wall too.
Everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
You better quote Mike Tyson though, because he's bigger and stronger than I am.
Yeah. We used to say that about the Belch. When the Belch used to cough, that's when we're all in trouble. When he was in his prime time. Yeah,
that's awesome. Obviously, you work with like athletes across the board, triathletes, etc. But maybe just specifically from a running perspective, like, have you got a key workout that maybe that goes across your spectrum of athletes that you tend to give, or make sure that's part of their week on a regular basis?
Oh, part of their week would have to be a long run then. I mean, that's the most critical component, I think. If you're just talking one session, I think if you're starting anywhere, that'd be the key. Yeah. And
what about a build up, like a key type session and the build up to an event sort of thing, as a I'm going well type session? Have you got something like that tends to be rolled out across the board?
Well, it would depend on who the person is. So, if Alice Mason versus Sam Tanner, two different animals doing two different events. But yeah, so for someone like Sam, he might do, 5 300s at 40 seconds off 90 seconds recovery, and if he can nail that and look really comfortable at the end, then we would know that he's going really well and ready to pop a good race. Whereas if someone like Alice is getting ready for a marathon, we might look to the long tempo and long effort at marathon pace, and as a bit of a guideline, if she can hold marathon pace for 30k, looking pretty comfortable, as part of a 35k run, then that would be a good indication that she's kind of going to run well in a marathon.
Nice. And what about you, Oska? Like that question for you? What's your to say I'm going well?
It depends where we are in the cycle, but on Sunday I ran a half at marathon effort, so I kind of like that 60. I found personally the 30k at marathon took a bit away from me, and I just couldn't. So I done it once before, and it was about 6 weeks out. And I guess with having to work full time and a family, I just couldn't. It took me about 2 weeks to come back, even though the heart rate in the workout was right. So I actually find that basically a half marathon, if I can, like I did on Sunday, tick through that at 66:30, feeling very comfortable talking to Maddie on the bike, I know that I'm going to run really well, over a marathon. Or if I can go out and run for 3 hours comfortably, with a gel and a bottle of water, I'm probably going to go real good. If everything's moving well. The other one I really like is a 1K, 2K, 3K, 2K, 1K. That was a costly special. Or it could be, for people 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 6 minutes, 3 minutes, I guess, roughly. And I kind of tailor that to be a little bit faster than whatever race I'm trying to race, 10K or above. So for the half, it might be just quicker than 3 minute Ks. For the marathon, it might be just slower than 3 minute Ks. And I find that 10 days out gives me a wee boost, ready to roll that higher intensity. Probably my two favorites. Yeah.
Good. And what about going back to a key session during the week for you?
For me?
Long run? Yep.
Yeah, long run. I'm probably the same as Craig. There's nothing better than getting out for 2.5 hours on a Saturday or Sunday morning, depending on where the cycle's at. I'm pretty bit of an aerobic animal, so I do love a 45-minute steady state. That sort of makes my week pretty good. I prefer to do that on the Port Hills along the Summit Road, for a few ups and downs. Yeah, around Hagley Park gets a bit boring, and I get a bit more stimulus out of the hills. But again, you've got to be pretty robust to handle that sort of week in, week out. I wouldn't obviously recommend someone go and run marathon effort 45 minutes every week unless they were, pretty strong and fit.
Yep. Yeah. No, fantastic. That's awesome. Good stuff. And Craig, obviously you're a bit of an expert from a mental skills perspective, going back to the on the wall, making sure that you're giving some good advice out. From a mental skills perspective of allowing and helping people to perform to their best, and especially when people have really put the work in and know that it means a lot to them, is there any sort of key things that you look to try and do to help them achieve when the pressure's really on, like Hayden at the Olympics?
Yeah, I think I've always had a bit of a mentality of helping athletes kind of really believe in themselves and believe that they're doing what the work they've done is putting them in the best position they can be in. And people kind of tease me about it, but I quite often say, it's all about belief, and you've got to believe in it. And I get a bit of stick for that, but I think it's 100% true. And I've often talked about kind of Hayden and Sam, actually, for that matter, being two guys that truly believe in what they are achieving, and they're not scared to go after it. So, and that not being afraid is probably the second part of it. Is that there's just no fear of failure. Like just give it death, and and see what happens. And those two things I try and instill in my athletes. And even today, I was talking to one of the young girls who is running tomorrow morning in the 3,000, and she was talking about some other girl in the race who's entered, and I was like, look, don't worry about it. Like, use it to your advantage. She's fast, so sit on her. Talked about race strategy, and I was like, look, I believe in you. You've got to believe in yourself. And try and instill that into them all the time. So that's probably the main thing.
Good. Yeah, and believing in it's the process, isn't it? Believing in your training and looking back on what you have done, that you deserve to be here, and now it's just going. Let's go and give it a good crack and see what happens.
That's right. What's the worst that can happen?
How do you pick people up when it all falls to pieces? How does that sort of happen?
With a beer, by no cookie.
Look how old they are. Look, we just try and learn from it, I think, is the key. Sam after the Olympics, he was bailed out, and he was disappointed not to make it through. He was thrilled to be at the Olympics, disappointed to not make it through to the next round. But we just use that opportunity to learn from it. Like, go, well, it's not what we wanted, it's not what we came for, but what did you learn, and what can we take away and take to the next opportunity? So, that's kind of, I think, the best way to deal with those disappointments.
Yeah, that's right. To learn to be better. You mentioned right at the start that you got Sam to sit down and watch the video like 12 times. Was it something that you saw in that you wanted him to feed back to you, or was that just actually part of the learning process that actually that'll be a good thing?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, that's what I did after the race. I rewound it and watched it, maybe not 12 times, but probably about 7 or 8 times, and just watched where he positioned himself, watched where the guys who in front of him who qualified, where they positioned themselves throughout the race, what moves did they make at what point, and so I found it really valuable. So without any kind of, I didn't want to put anything into his mind about what I thought. I wanted him to go and learn for himself, so I just sent him back to watch, and then we debriefed after about what he could have done differently and what different guys did during the race, and it was just a whole learning opportunity for him and for me.
Nice. And that's the thing as a coach, isn't it? You're learning and developing yourself and learning from the athletes of all levels of the spectrum that you're working with. Is there any sort of key thing that's top of mind that you're kind of learning more about or trying to find out more at the moment?
Oh, that's a big question. Nothing specific. I mean, things always pop up that sometimes you haven't considered and you kind of work through. But no, nothing specific at the moment.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing in terms of working with the spectrum of people, is that you can cross-pollinate, can't you? With one thing works for another kind of thing up and down the line. It doesn't have to be just for the elite athlete or just for the age grouper either. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, nice. Oscar, have you got a question sitting there? Or is your teammate on your knee?
I'm trying. The question is, can Andy go to bed on time? No. So do you guys do, or, one of my favorite things to do is keep a handwritten journal, like a diary training, but also perhaps how you felt that day, how things were going. Do you do a little bit of that with your guys, leading into events, something they can look back on that's, concrete rather than just, on training peaks?
No. No, although I do have pretty close communication with quite a few athletes, but there's probably several that I don't. And maybe that's something that we could adopt. So I like that.
Yeah. Just and around that, I find that if I'm sitting there the night before in the hotel room on your own, it's quite nice to look back on, how things were going 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I don't often get that. By flicking back through Training Peaks calendars. You're like, it was going okay. And, I guess then I've always been a fan of the handwritten diaries. That's one of my favourite memories is Phil dropping 7 1B5s on the maths desk at school going, read through some of those, that'll make you good. I don't think I've ever managed to get through one of his training blocks before. But have
you still got those diaries?
No, he's got them at home, but I did. I had a good look at them. It's interesting. I don't know. You were probably coming in when there was GPS watches at some point, maybe, but they used to round it up. So half an hour was 7K, an hour was 14K, 90 minutes was 21K, which you probably believe. And he rounded up at the end of the week, and he reckoned if he could get 10 weeks of 10 hours together, it'd go good. But having the handwritten stuff was pretty cool.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Craig, where does strength training sort of fit in what you're doing across the board for athletes? Like, how do you approach that? Do you have a strength conditioning person that you work with, or how's that? I guess from an elite athlete perspective, first of all, like so you have Hayden's and Sam, what do they do from that perspective?
Yeah, so they both work with a strength and conditioning coach based here. So they've been aided by High Performance Sport New Zealand to have some strength and conditioning work put into their program. So we have been working pretty closely with them to not only to set up the program, but to integrate it into their current load, so that we're not making it absolute balls of it.
Yeah, nice. And then what about those, I guess, age group type athletes, those that are just trying to see if they can complete and finish? How does that work for them? Is it part of everybody, or is it
Well,
more?
normally for them it becomes a time crunch. So quite often we talk about it with athletes, and I go, well, how much time can you dedicate to it? Would for the hour that you spend in the gym 3 times a week, would you be better off out there riding or running or swimming? Could you sacrifice half of that? Do you need to? And then there's extra cost of joining the gym and those kind of things. So sometimes we just kind of weigh that up, and I have quite a few athletes who do go to the gym, and they might go twice a week for kind of 40 minutes or so. But no, it's not something I prescribe for them, because I sometimes I think the value is lost when they could be actually out there doing their core work.
Yeah. Cool. And it's about efficiency, isn't it? Like, as you mentioned before, like your long run, one of the key things you get from your long run is just efficiency of movement by doing that repetitively and holding yourself together as long as you can.
Yeah, sure. If you run over hills and stuff, then it's strength work in itself, isn't it? So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting because everyone's got a different kind of angle on that. Some do heaps of it, some do none of it. What's your sort of angle on that, Oska, from a strength training perspective?
I've probably adopted the less is more, but some is important philosophy probably over the last 18 months. And like Craig said, it's got to fit into the load. So it does give you an opportunity to maybe load up a bigger day if you're quite motivated. So if Wednesdays are normally a workout day for us, then I build a gym in the garage so Indy and I can do a gym when I get home from work, and nothing fancy, but there's a squat rack and you can lift some deadlifts and stuff, and do a little bit of balance work, whatever Caden's prescribed me for that injury that I've got going on at the moment that is niggling away, and that's a good time to sort of do that. But yeah, I did used to go sort of 2 or 3 times a week, and sometimes I will do that if we're low load and running. If we're having a bit of downtime, we need to work on something else. And often Matt will say, well, hey, why don't we drop that running down a wee bit? And we, there's no racing on the horizon, or we don't need to be running 14 hours a week. So we'll fit an extra gym in just to get a bit more robust before we start to respond quite well to the weights. But definitely one a week regularly. And then sometimes, if I work on a 2-week cycle, it might be 3 a fortnight, rather than, a religious 2 a week, which sometimes I find it just stresses me out a bit more getting to the gym, if I'm trying to cram it in with everything else. But when I'm there, it's quality, good lifts, sensible weights, prescribed stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. So Craig, we're just clicking over March. What's 2022 looking like for you going forward?
Obviously national champs are on starting tomorrow morning, which I cannot go to. Son just tested positive for COVID last night, so I'm housebound for 10 days or so. So that was disappointing. But the next race after that would be, there's a local triathlon, which a lot of athletes will race locally here. And then there's a national triathlon champs in the end of March in New Plymouth. So head down to that. Then there's a couple of trial races that TriNZ are putting on for Com Games selection policy requirements. And then I'll try and get to Europe for June and July. So I'll probably try and spend 8 weeks being based in Girona, but probably heading to racing almost every weekend or every second weekend, the time that I'm there, and then hopefully finish up with Com Games and then head home. So and then who knows after that what the year will look like. Maybe I'll get to go and watch some Super League racing in September, but see. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's awesome. And is that, in terms of funding, is that funded through TriNZ? How does that work for you in terms of, or is that Hayden's helping you out? What goes on there?
It's all under negotiation at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully TriNZ will come to the party, and they're opening a base in Girona from June till November, so right. they need staff there, and they need people to go to racing anyway. So there's a reasonable shot that I'll be there as a TriNZ representative.
We were just about to start a Give a Little page there, almost.
Yeah. Feel free, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Any parting shots, Craig, to finish up with? Any sort of final questions, Oska, from your end?
No, nothing from me. But I've always challenged Oska to go after my PB for the marathon, so it's still on the table there for you, mate. I'll buy you a couple of beers if you get it.
Yeah. So tell us what that is. Tell us when that was.
I've got it here. Hold on. Wait a minute. Do you remember, Craig? You're that old.
No, it was I think it was on my birthday, 8th of October, 2001 in Chicago, 2 hours, 13, 17 seconds.
Yeah, they've got 18 seconds in the rankings, but I'll give you one.
Yeah.
I'll give you a second. we always take one. Yeah. And I ran through 59 last week, so we'll take it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
If you want help with your 1500 training, come on up and you can join Sam for a few sessions. And
yeah, I don't think I'd run again. No, I'll give it a crack. I think definitely under 214 is the goal. I felt like if I had gone to that World Champs for the half, that I could have run 63 high.
Yeah.
I was in a real good nick, so I don't think if conversion for me gets better as it goes longer. So it's not impossible. Get a good 12 weeks of training together, you can make it happen.
I look forward to seeing it, mate.
Yeah, good. Just like that.
Yeah.
Is that this year? Are we thinking this year?
No, anytime. He's getting older, so it just gets harder for him.
Yeah. Don't tell Caden that.
Okay.
No. Well, how old were you in 2001?
I think I was 28, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm older than that. I started later. I didn't start till I was 21. So I think it probably depends on racing. Obviously, with MIQ relaxing a wee bit, it does present a few more opportunities for the back half of the year. If there are some. New Zealand's got pretty good relationships across Japan for marathon in that late sort of November, December time. I know that we do have connections with Seville, with Hixie running really well there. That nothing's off the cards, and that's sort of this time next year. So I think eventually you got to take that plunge and run a couple more. I've only run 2, and I've got faster each time. So if I keep taking 3 minutes off, I'm nearly there. Every time. But he definitely that major goal is to go into 214, and then I could probably hang the shoes up happy and do something else.
I look forward to seeing you, mate. Best of luck.
Yeah. Well done. Cheers. Thanks for your time, Craig.
No worries.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Cheers.
See ya.
Yeah.
Good job, Oska. What was a key? Yeah, that's good. What a key takeaway from that chat with Craig?
Oh, I think he was silently telling me to calm down. Well, not so silently. No. I think that's cool when you got someone as good as Hayden, a bronze medal in the Olympics, world class runner, cyclist, and worked real hard in the pool to be able to put those two things together. Watching him in Tokyo was pretty cool, and to have someone who's that caliber to still be quite relaxed and deal with some of the stresses of perhaps not you go into a place where your language isn't necessarily spoken as much anyway, and then to have all those extra hurdles to overcome without your key support person, that must have been real difficult. So credit to Hayden, and I guess a credit to Craig to get him ready.
That's right.
To give that a go. It's a pretty impressive feat. Yeah.
And as you said, I like the backup plan and the backup plan for the backup plan kind of thing. Yeah. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, but actually you had this plan depending on where we go and what we're going to do and where MIQ is and all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty cool to hear. And even just as where he's traveling and how he's working with them is really interesting to hear as well. How he's sort of working with his athletes is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess we saw that in Braden with Coast to Coast and Ironman being cancelled. He had a plan B, and that was pretty cool to watch. So, it's good. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's right. And as you said, sort of right at the start, it's good just to go and turn up and have a crack, isn't it, with what we're doing as whatever opportunities come up. So I guess that's all part of the whole piece, really, isn't it, to actually just not just think, oh, well, that was cancelled, that's done kind of thing. I'll sit back and maybe try and do it next year. There's lots of different opportunities. Some are still here. There's lots of different things going on.
Yeah, and everyone builds on the next one.
That's right. So yeah, get out there, challenge yourself, have a crack, and learn something from it, as Craig mentioned, and see what opportunities come up as a result of that.
Nice, like it.
Good job, well done. Thanks for your time, Oska. Until next time, look after yourself, and it's probably bedtime.
Oh yeah, well and truly. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
See ya.